there's a little cartoon that floats around online with two men who are digging in a mine, and the man on the top keeps going and the man on the bottom gives up, but they're both at the same distance from the diamond. Now, that is what happens a lot in every art career, and that's what happens with game development, is a lot of people get burnt out, or they follow a path that takes them in the wrong direction so longly, but they give up just before they're ready to hit that goal.
What happened? What changed him like that? I don't know. Something he saw, I guess.
Today we're going to be talking with freelance illustrator Jennifer Llewellyn about apps and some of the mistakes that she's made, some of the successes that she's had, and how do you go from having an idea to creating something, creating a finished product. I'm your host, Mitch Bowler. Let's get to it. So, welcome to the call, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Mitch. How about yourself?
Awesome.
What is it? I'm sorry to bother you. Just a few questions.
Why don't we dive right into this? Could you tell us a little bit about how you got started and where your passion for art comes from?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a kid growing up, my parents didn't really buy a lot of material possessions for us. So if we wanted to, like coloring books or characters that we wanted to color in or play with on paper, like most kids do, my mom would just grab paper that was around and draw any character we wanted. So we would have kind of our own personal coloring book. So ever since then, I just had a passion for the arts and I love watching her do it. I was pretty lucky through all my schooling, my elementary, junior high, and high school, that each art teacher would be really excited to kind of talk with me and see what I could do, and they would push me a little bit further. I was never one for the academics. I kind of would avoid it at any cost and draw on every test, but the art teachers saw it and they really helped me out and got me going where I wanted to go. Living in Winnipeg, there's not a huge amount of schooling for the commercial side of art at that time. There was a lot for the graphic design side of things or the fine arts, but that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So with my high school teacher, Mr. Marchenko, we sat down for a number of times with my parents and we looked over every college that would be worthy of a career in arts. Not sure if that would have been animation at that point, but I knew I had to do something with it. The university was not for me. I didn't want to write essays. There was Cal Arts, there was Sheridan, there was Van Arts in Vancouver, and we kind of sat down with a realistic budget, and Van Arts was kind of the choice for me. So I went for a month and checked out the school, because I really feel you have to test them as much as they're testing you to get in. If the school is not have teachers that are currently involved in the industry, that's going to hurt you. You really want them working in the industry or connected with that industry so you have a better network when you're going out. So during that month, I had a chance to check out the school and I fell in love with it. There's some amazing teachers there who have become life friends and just taught me so much.
And that was Van Arts, or which school?
Van Arts, which is Vancouver Institute of the Media Arts, not to be confused with Vancouver Film School. That's a different school, but Van Arts is a private post-secondary at that time that just focused on 2D and 3D animation. Now they've expanded and they're doing a lot more than that.
That's such a great point, I think, to go and check out the school. You're way ahead of the curve and actually going and spending time there and meeting people and digging so deep. It's such a crucial choice for how your path is going to develop. You could be in a class, and I've heard this a few times, where a certain graduating classes, they have like 5 or 6 really well-known artists in them, because I feel like everybody pushed each other and everyone came up at the same time. And also they're working under great teachers. But if in the beginning you don't do the legwork and go and investigate that school, you don't know what you're getting into. And I think that's one of the huge mistakes that I made. I went to also from around Winnipeg, and I went to the University of Manitoba. And while there were some good teachers there, I enjoyed my time there. But as far as a career move, horrible mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. I feel for, like, Winnipeg is such a passionate community about the arts, whether it be music or film or however, there's not the teaching that it needs to be yet. So there's opportunity for somebody who wants it. There's a couple companies that have popped up that are really drawing some pretty top talent. So I don't know if you ever heard of Complex Games, but they're a game studio out there. There's some Disney products that they've worked on. They're doing some Wii stuff. So it is coming up. Like, there's some people who are sticking it out and not leaving, but most of us have kind of moved on to different places. But it's slowly coming. Vancouver started with nothing, so it's happening over there. And if you're going to go to a school and you're going to be already the top student, that's not the school for you. So I don't know, that's just a personal choice. I always like to be kind of in the middle or near the bottom, so I have so much more to learn. If I get to a place, either in a studio or in a classroom where there's nobody else to learn from aside from the teacher, I don't feel comfortable there. I need somebody else that's going to push me and drive me.
When you went to the school, did you actually go and interview the teachers, or did you just walk through and look at some of the past examples of students? Because only recently have I heard this, that students will go to these art schools and there will obviously be some very talented, very I don't know what the word is, but very talented students. And so they'll get special attention from the instructors, from the faculty, and then those students will get pushed up. They'll be put on a pedestal. And when you go to look at the work that's being done at the school, you're only going to see the work of these handful of students that are already the rock stars. And that might not give you a true sense of what the school is actually producing, because a lot of those other students are sort of just swept under the silent rug and you never see their work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, a school is just like any business. They're going to showcase their best work. But I think you really need to go in and talk to them, take your parents if you can, actually see the physical school. Don't just judge it by online content. So what I did is they offered a 1-month workshop where you could test the program that you were going into. So I actually got to learn from the instructors, talk to the students, kind of live that atmosphere for a whole month. And that gave me a chance to really see the ups and the downs. Like if at that time, if you were to look at Van Arts, this tiny little warehouse that was during an earthquake, your whole desk would fall apart almost. But they were investing the money in the teaching and they were investing the money in the technology. They weren't so worried about that image of the fancy carpets. And so they really focused on bringing in and drawing that top teaching talent. And that is what made me want to go.
Let's move forward now. And so you've been an artist for a while, but you recently transitioned to go full-time freelance?
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I've been working in I started in animation for 14 years. It's been quite the journey. I've had my own company for about 7 years now, and I took the leap of faith in myself to say, it's time to expand and give myself the opportunity to learn more. So doing the freelance, I have the ability to choose what I want to work on and not work on the same thing for 2 or 3 years. It's going to be a different project, whether it be print media with a children's book, or if it's going to be an app or a game, if it's going to be, say, an animated short or a sculpture that I'm going to do for a community. It just gives me the opportunity to really expand. So that's kind of what drove me to do it. Is I was finding in a studio, I was just doing the same thing. I wasn't at that point where there was somebody for me to learn from. Like I said, I was the only 2D artist left in the studio with my skill set. So that was a bit scary to not have that somebody to bounce the ideas off of and to learn from and to learn with somebody who would be interested in talking with you. So I went full-time freelance. It was a big jump, a bit of a scare to go on your own, not know when the money's coming in. So don't do it lightly. Make sure you investigate it a bit more. Make sure that you are set and ready to do that. But it's been good. It's been a good almost a year. So.
And when you were going to become a freelance artist, had you been laying the groundwork for a long time? There's so many people that would love to get out of their studio gig. How did you do it?
This isn't my first time to the ballpark. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And I went out on my own. I had a few good contracts lined up doing some children's illustration. And I thought, this is going to take me about a year to do these 8 or 9 books. I might as well go do it freelance. Little did I know back then that authors can be a bit tricky to work with. And it was a little bit of a terrible experience where I ended up not getting paid for a few of the projects that I had done. So my initial investment was lost. So I had nothing. I had to go back. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would make sure that you have a good network in the community around you, not just with your peers, but also with clients. You need to have that larger clientele and not just have all your eggs in one medium or one basket. So I went back to school and got a lot more training. Like I focused on classical animation, a little bit of 3D animation. I don't do enough of it, and illustration, but I needed to upgrade that training. So I took a bunch of classes online, did a lot of the classes on your site as well. But I took a 1 month intensive with the Imaginism studios, where you get to live in studio and learn with them for a month. And that class changed my world. It gave me a ton of training, a new outlook on the way I do things, a lot more respect for the talent I did have, and it gave me the courage to build those relationships I already had a bit further, and having the clients come back regularly after year after year after year with every project, and then just having that faith in me and saying, we're going to work with you full time, always on these projects, and I'd have guaranteed 2 or 3 projects a year. Okay, well that's my salary. What else can I take on? So I had to have it lined up so that I would have my bills covered, and then I could go and do the fun stuff. So it took a while to really build out those relationships and build out that skill set. So I wasn't just in that one bubble of animator. I had to become a digital painter. I had to become a better illustrator. I really needed to train and expand, so I wasn't just stuck in that one pigeonhole.
So I guess you're saying that you advocate that, because I know other people say that, you need to find your voice and you need to find your style and you need to be different than everybody else. But coming from you, it sounds more like, well, if you can juggle all these different styles and jobs, not that you're doing all different kinds of styles, but you're multi-talented and you can handle a lot of different projects, that's more. That will give you more stability because you can take on more different kinds of projects. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, coming from animation, I started as an assistant animator, where I get the animator's drawings and I'd have to put them on model. So you don't really have a chance to put your own flavor into a show. You have to be able to draw that style. Mm-hmm. So that's how you get the job. You do an animation test and you do some cleanup drawings, and they see if you can fit into that demographic, or that style of cartoon. So in animation, you're learning to replicate on style with thousands of people in the studio you're working with. So you need to match on par what they're doing. So it's pretty easy to adapt to a different brand. So a lot of the things I've started out with is already established brand, like Strawberry Shortcake, Olivia the Pig, and I'm working with those because I can fully grasp what they've done with it, understand the character, understand the actions, how is it drawn, what are the colors, these kinds of things that I've trained with. So it wasn't for me so much developing my own style. That kind of came with time, but it was more so being able to do what was demanded in the market, what people needed. So it's whether that be animation or illustration, whatever is needed, you need to be able to do. Like, not saying that I can do everything. I definitely can. Nobody will ever in their lifetime be able to do everything. But it's allowed me to take on different projects. And if it's a bigger project and there's something I can't do, I'm not going to say, well, I can't do it. I'm going to get help, but I'm going to hire other artists or programmers to work with me in a team. So it's allowed me to take on bigger projects. So
that totally makes sense. And there was something there that you said at the end about hiring on additional artists and hiring on programmers and building a team, which I think is a great segue more into what you're doing now with creating apps. And can you tell us how that, exactly what are you doing with apps, so that everybody listening has a sense of where you're at with them?
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked on probably this is crazy, but over 200 games at this point, whether that be from marketing or to console or handheld or mobile. And I've learned a lot of what to do and a heck of a lot of what not to do. So I've sat down with a couple of friends and we said, what can we get out in a week? What can we do art-wise in a week? What can we do technical-wise in a week? And we've set these goals to get these little games out, whether they be for free just online on Flash, or if we get them into the App Store, so that we can test the market, see what they're waiting for, what they're looking for. So we're not making a big initial upfront investment. It's small because it's just our time and a little bit with music and voiceover. And then that way we can see, well, what are they hungry for? What are they waiting for? What can we produce quickly but still with quality? So we're testing that market right now in hopes that we'll be able to develop our own intellectual property in a little bit of a bigger game.
So like anything's possible, but it needs to be done within a week. and that if it does really well, then you'll continue to build that out. Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. You can invest millions of dollars into a property or a game, and that game could never see the light of day. It could end up sitting there for years, and it's a great idea. But the longer it sits there, the more it's not valid with current things. If you're making a hidden object game and it's sitting there, it's missing the market, and it's missing all these things that are growing. Like the hidden object game series will gain animation and now has 3D interaction. There's a heck of a lot more story. So within a few months, your game could be outdated. So you always need to be pushing things forward. And the nice thing about the mobile space, especially with Apple, is you can release something and that's not the end of it. You can always push updates and change your marketing around it. With console games, that never used to be the case. You would have to, ship it once and pray it sells. But that's definitely not the case with mobile. And I think that's why there's more of an opportunity for the individuals to explore it and have an opportunity to get their own stuff out.
I used to work in outsourcing, and I thought that I had, a big portfolio of games that I'd worked on, probably 20 or so, and another 11 or so films, but 200 games. What that is.
It sounds great, but at the same time, I'm thinking, oh man, what the heck have I been doing? So I went from animation where it was a project that you work on for a number of months to games where it could be a week, it could be a year, it could be a few months or something. But having my company on the side and then my full-time studio job, my portfolio just grew and grew and grew and grew, and my network grew with it. So that really helped. It was kind of crazy and a lot of long nights and a lot of missed social events, but it was definitely worth it. So
yeah, and it sounds like if anyone's thinking about going from being an artist into creating apps or creating games, like you would probably, be one of the best people to talk to about this, just because of how many different projects you've seen. And if somebody came to you and like, here's the art style that we want to do, and we have this and that idea, you could probably save them months and months and months of time, just being dreamers, and bring people back to reality and say like, look, here's what's going to work for you guys. You're going to have to cut out all this stuff and then focus on these couple things. So how did you go to creating apps? Like you're already in the game space, but now you have your own company and your own developer. I know a lot of people that I've talked to, you talk to my friends and they say, hey, I'm working on this app, or I want to make this app. Everything is about apps these days. But I don't see a lot of people actually coming back to me and asking me, hey, Mitch, can you review my app? And so I'm guessing that a lot of these apps kind of just fall to the wayside or don't get produced, or they run into production hiccups. I'm not sure what happens to them, but I haven't reviewed a lot of my friends' apps. I wish I would be reviewing a lot more. I would definitely give them 5-star reviews. So how did you get started with this from the artist standpoint?
It's like any art career as well. There's a little cartoon that floats around online with two men who are digging in a mine, and the man at the top keeps going and the man at the bottom gives up, but they're both at the same distance from the diamond. Now, that is what happens a lot in every art career, and that's what happens with game development, is a lot of people get burnt out, or they follow a path that takes them in the wrong direction so longly, but they give up just before they're ready to hit that goal. And the people who move forward and strive forward and admit when they're failing and ask for that help and find the people that they can entrust in, they will move forward. It might take you a little bit longer, but it gets done. For myself, it was finding a good partnership in the programming side of things where I had no clue. Like I'm not a technical person, so I had to find somebody who had a passion for the gaming and a little bit of the creative side, but really, really understood the programming. And I found a really good team that it's two developers who I work with locally. And we developed a friendship, and we would share art and we talk about art and we would review games together. And then we just sat down and said, it's time. It's time that we do it. Here's the time I can commit in my schedule. Here's the time they can commit. And we came up with this one week. In that week, we can explore a lot of options, and we can throw out a ton of crap and a ton of good stuff that we keep in. But it allows us to be reined in. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of people who have these ideas. They're just too large, and you need to start out small, and you can always add to it, but you don't want your initial upfront investment to be too big or too overwhelming. You want it to be something that you can control and actually deliver.
To get started then, you knew you couldn't do the programming side, and then you were looking on Craigslist, or was it like personal referrals to people, or were you on Elance or Odesk, or one of those online job sites? Because there's a lot of people that I've met in game development or indie game development, especially where they're artists and they have great skill, but they can't find a programmer, or they find a programmer and it's not the right fit, or it's very difficult to work with these people because, they're in a different time zone, or you have different priorities and you don't really know this person. And then I think the same thing exists on the programmer side where they've got lots of great ideas, but their game looks terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a disconnect. So how do you find each other?
Well,
or how did you find your team?
No, absolutely. So I'm a big advocate for not sitting on your butt and getting these things done. I think a lot of it goes back to meeting people in person, understanding their demeanor, finding out if they're genuine. Are they really interested? Do they follow through? So I would attend events that weren't for artists. I would attend events that were for programmers, whether it be through Digital Alberta or I lost my train of thought. The game developers community.
Uh-huh.
That you know what I'm talking about, right?
IDGA, Independent Game
That's it.
Developers
Yes, that's it. The IGDA. There used to be a really big chapter of that in Calgary. So we would go to, I would go to those meetings that were set out for when they brought in somebody to talk about Unity. They brought in somebody to talk about a different aspect of programming or a new mechanic that was out, or a new physics or a 3D thing. Something I had no interest in learning myself, but I wanted to see what these people's needs were, what they had. And then I would talk to them and say, hey, I'm an artist, here's my card. And they would give me their card. And they'd be so excited to meet an artist in person, like, oh wow, you actually care about this side of things. You're not just making it pretty. And the way I would start my relationship with them, this is how I truly believe games need to be made, is the look of a game is the last thing. It's what gets people to pick it up. But if the mechanics and the core of the game are not fun, there's no point in making it. So you can make those games in squares and boxes and find out if it's fun. A really good example for this for me is when the Wii first came out. Those characters looked terrible, but it was a whole new game mechanic. It was a whole new system, something that people hadn't seen before, and that's what got the excitement about it. And the art was just a wrapper in the end. So that's how we approach the games. If it's not fun on paper and it's not fun playing it in blocks and squares, then we're not going to make it. So these guys really appreciated it. Was a joint project. It wasn't just one-sided where the art sold the game or the programming sold the game. It was a really good collaboration, and you need to work together. And you just don't approach it as, I need something from you. What can you do for me? It's all about, what can we do together? What can I do to help you? And they respect that a lot more. And that's something that freelancers really need to learn is, I know that you are going out there to get the work and you're hungry for it, but don't be overeager, and make sure that you're approaching it the right way, where it's a give and take, where what can I do for you? Or, hey, if you're looking for a sound guy, here's a guy I know, and you just help people out, and then the work starts coming to you instead of you going to look for it. So
did you feel a little bit like a unicorn when you were in that group of all those developers and you were the only artist?
I would just pray to God they wouldn't ask me a question. I would be totally lost. I would admit it. I would say, I'm curious about this, or so they speak a language I don't understand, and it would take me years of training, just like we have years of, or a lifetime of ongoing training in art. It's completely foreign and not something I have a huge interest in doing, but I really respect it and I really understand what they do. So
I think it's a great networking hack to go, get outside of your comfort zone and go to the place where those people hang out, because I've been to different meetup groups, and for me, I always seem to just, you meet this sort of variation of yourself. It's like you're doing comic books, and then this other person's doing comic books, and this other person's writing for comic books, and on and on and on. But what you really want to do is make games. So what you should be doing is going to, independent game developer meetups, or just programmer meetups, because those programmers know other programmers, and it's such a great networking hack. I'm definitely going to try it out soon here and see what happens.
It works. It really does. As much as we're looking for a programmer, they're usually looking for a good artist, and they don't know where to meet them or who to trust and who can deliver.
And meeting people face to face is such a game changer, because you can just see it's like, I can't trust this person, or it's like we're best friends. I can't believe I have never met you before, because I would totally hang out with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's your studio going? What kind of projects are exciting for you in the future? Where are you going to be in a few years from now?
Right now, my company's doing really well. Our last 2 years, we worked on 4 animated shorts that are educational. It's pretty cool because WestJet has picked those up. So you can watch our cartoons on the Kids Network. So that's pretty exciting that there's the 4 animated shorts on the WestJet film. We have those apps that are coming out, those quick 1-week little app testers. One of our books resonated really well, which was Benjamin's My First Camping Trip. It's a really cute little app that we did probably about 6 years ago, and we finally got it programmed, and it had resonated really well with moms and with kids. So we are doing another one. It's a winter series, and there's snowball fights, and it's pretty fun. That's what we're working on now. And in the future, I hope that we will develop better and bigger client relationships. I like working on those big brands and the childhood dreams. Working on Strawberry Shortcake was really fun. And for myself, I like to see the company grow so I can help build the industry a bit here in Calgary. I'd love to work in animation again, not just in games. It's a bit different, animation to film. It's very, very different in animation. You do a lot of walk cycles. I'm going to upgrade my 3D training, so I'm just saving to do that through Animation Mentor. It's a great school, and it allows me to still work with my company and do the training at the same time. But I would like to work on a feature. I think it would be fun. I've never had the opportunity to really do it, and that's kind of the long-term goal of my own.
One of the things that I think is really cool about you, especially when I was looking at your blog, is that your dedication to education just lets you take on the projects and do the things that you really want to do. For example, you want to work on a feature, so now you're learning 3D because you know that's an essential skill to working on a feature.
Thought it was a fair gamble. Either I'd find myself or get it out of my system.
One other thing that I did want to bring up, because people seem to come to me with this a lot, and I know you had examples of it on your website and you touched on it briefly, was children's illustration. And do you do children's illustration anymore, or?
I do. Yeah, I just finished a book about hugs.
Okay.
But I approach it differently. I have an agent that I work with who's wonderful. It's touchy with agents. You have to be careful, make sure it's a good relationship where they're not just taking from you and you're not paying them. I will quote how much it's going to take me to do a project. He will add 15% on top of that and take it to the client. So I'm never losing anything. We will get requests a lot for children's books, but what I do is I approach it where, well, what are they going to do with it? What's the story? Is it new? Is it something that I'm passionate or excited about doing? And do they have a plan to market it? A lot of the time, they don't have the budget, they don't have the time, and they don't have a realistic understanding of your commitment. In children's book, the art is a pretty vital role. The way a parent picks up a book is definitely by looking at it first. Then they dissect the story. So it's a fine line. You really have to be careful not to be taken advantage of. You have to really stand your ground and realize that the author isn't paying you just for your talent or for your drawing skills. They're paying you for your ideas, for your creativity, and all of that has a price tag on it. Don't undersell yourself. Make sure that you maintain that, yes, my talent and my skill has a value, not only for this that I'm producing the art, but because of my ideas, my creativity, and everything behind it. Don't undersell yourself, and make sure that you have your realistic goals set out. And if they aren't able to match that, do not do things for free. If you want to learn a lot about a person who really, really advocates for the upcoming artist, watch Steven Silver's blog and listen to him. Follow him on Facebook, watch his videos. He really, really, really stands up for the new and up-and-coming artist, and I've learned a ton just listening to him. So definitely check that out.
Great advice. Where can people find more from you online, Jennifer, and how do they get in touch?
We have a Facebook page, which is Lightbox Entertainment Incorporated, and you can just follow us on there, or you can go to our website, which is lightboxentertainment.com, and check us out and just email us. Or if you're a student and you have questions, I'm always happy to answer you. It might take me a week or two to get back to you, but that's the best thing about the career we're in, is people are always willing to help and teach you, and they inspire new talent coming out. So don't feel scared to reach out. All
right, great. And we'll have links to everything as well on the show notes on Pencil Kings. So that'll be pencilkings.com/Jennifer Llewellyn. Let me spell that out for you. It'll be JENNIFER-LLEWELLYN. I'll see you guys soon. And thank you, Jennifer, so much for being on the Pencil Kings podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
You don't understand. We saw something that changed him. That's what happens to all of us. Doesn't matter if we really see it or only imagine we do. We see something that changes us.
If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could hit the 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio and leave us a little comment about what you thought about this.